From a flicker of candlelight in 1789 to the glare of modern screens in the West Wing, every president has held the pen. Executive orders not passed by Congress, but etched into law by command. Some shaped history. Some sparked controversy. Others were forgotten. Until now. This is where we break them down. Every signature, every shift in power, every consequence still felt today. From Washington to Biden, welcome to Executive Order Watch.
Democracy, we live for it. For democracy, we fight for it. For democracy, we've died for it. And for democracy, we watch it. This is Executive Order Watch.
Folks, as we step into the year 1992, we find ourselves at the crossroads of a presidency that had, for 4 years, guided America through both triumph and turbulence. President George Herbert Walker Bush, decorated World War II veteran, seasoned diplomat, former CIA director, entered his final full year in the Oval Office with the weight of a shifting world on his shoulders. Now, 1992. It was not a quiet year. In fact, it was a year where the post-Cold War world began to reveal just how complicated peace could be. The Soviet Union had officially dissolved by the close of 1991, but its unraveling left behind a wake of uncertainty. And President Bush, he was no stranger to foreign affairs, took that moment seriously. He worked to solidify diplomatic ties with emerging post-Soviet republics, advocating for democracy and nuclear disarmament. His steady hand helped lay the groundwork for the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty START II negotiations, a step forward in preventing a new arms race. But it wasn't just foreign policy where things were shifting. Domestically, America was feeling the sting of a recession that had begun in 1990. By 92, the economic recovery was slow, uneven, and frustrating for working Americans. Businesses were closing, unemployment was rising, and despite efforts to revive the economy through tax relief proposals and business incentives, many Americans felt left behind. President Bush's leadership style that year reflected his deep-rooted sense of public service, careful, diplomatic, and measured. But some critics argued that it lacked the energy or populist tone demanded in that moment. That criticism came to the forefront as the presidential campaign season kicked into full gear. And what a campaign it was. 1992 saw the rise of two major challengers. Bill Clinton, the young, charismatic governor from Arkansas, and Ross Perot, the billionaire businessman running as an independent with his laser focus on the national debt. Bush's re-election efforts struggled to reignite the coalition that had carried him through Desert Storm. Despite his international accomplishments, voters were focused on the economy. "It's the economy, stupid," became a refrain that resonated across the nation. Meanwhile, on the streets of America, civil unrest exploded following the Rodney King verdict in Los Angeles. The LA riots revealed deep divisions in our justice system, our law enforcement institutions, and our communities. President Bush addressed the nation, deployed federal troops to restore order, and emphasized the need for peace. But the riots forced a reckoning that continues to this day. And let's not forget the passage of the Energy Policy Act of 1992, which aimed to promote energy efficiency and alternative fuels, forward-thinking legislation at the time that still echoes in today's clean energy conversations. In 1992, I was a man still deeply committed to coalition building, to international leadership, and to institutional integrity. But he faced a nation that was, for the first time in years, more focused inward than outward. They were asking, "What are you doing for us here at home?" So as we prepare to examine the executive orders of 1992, we'll begin to see how President Bush sought to address those very questions, how he used the powers of the presidency not just to shape international peace, but to respond to domestic tensions, ethical standards in government, and the structural needs of a recovering economy. Let's turn now to those executive orders and what they reveal about the final efforts of the 41st President of the United States. Executive orders. Executive Order 12,788 Defense Economic Adjustment Program on January 15, 1992. Executive Order 12,789 Delegation of Reporting Functions under the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 on February 10, 1992. Executive Order 12,790 amending the order establishing the Southwest Asia Service Medal on March 3, 1992. Executive Order 12,791 Nuclear Cooperation with EURATOM on March 9, 1992. Executive Order 12,792 National Commission on America's Urban Families on March 12, 1992. Executive Order 12,793 Continuing the Presidential Service Certificate and the Presidential Service Badge on March 20, 1992. Executive Order 12,794 Establishing an emergency board to investigate disputes between certain railroads and their employees represented by the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers on March 31, 1992. Executive Order 12,795 Establishing an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Consolidated Rail Corporation and its employees represented by the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way employees on March 31, 1992. Executive Order 12,796 Establishing an emergency board to investigate disputes between the National Railroad Passenger Corporation and its employees represented by certain labor organizations on March 31, 1992. Executive_Order:12797. Review of increases in rates of basic pay for certain employees of the Department of Veterans Affairs and other agencies on April 3, 1992. Executive Order 12,798 Waiver under the Trade Act of 1974 with respect to Armenia on April 6, 1992. Executive Order 12,799 Navy and Marine Corps Reserve Officer Promotions on April 7, 1992. Executive Order 12,800 Notification of Employee Rights concerning payment of union dues or fees on April 13, 1992. Executive Order 12,801 Barring overflight, takeoff, and landing of aircraft flying to or from Libya on April 15, 1992. Executive Order 12,802 Waiver under the Trade Act of 1974 with respect to the Republic of Belarus, the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, and the Russian Federation on April 16, 1992, Executive_Order:12803 Infrastructure Privatization on April 30, 1992. Executive Order 12,804 Providing for the restoration of law and order in the City and County of Los Angeles and other districts of California on May 1, 1992. Executive Order 12,805 Integrity and Efficiency in Federal Programs on May 11, 1992. Executive Order 12,806 Establishment of a Fetal Tissue Bank on May 19, 1992. Executive Order 12,807 Interdiction of Illegal Aliens on May 24, 1992. Executive Order 12,808 Blocking Yugoslav government property and property of the governments of Serbia and Montenegro on May 30, 1992. Executive Order 12,809 Waiver under the Trade Act of 1974 with respect to Albania, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Moldova, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan on June 3, 1992. Executive Order 12,810 Blocking property of and prohibiting transactions with the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Serbia, and Montenegro on June 5, 1992. Executive Order 12,811 Waiver under the Trade Act of 1974 with respect to Tajikistan and Turkmenistan on June 24, 1992. Executive Order 12,812 Declassification and Release of Materials pertaining to prisoners of war and missing in action on July 22, 1992. Executive Order 12,813, President's Commission on Management of the Agency for International Development, AID programs on August 4, 1992. Executive Order 12,814, additions to Level 4 of the Executive Schedule for members of the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board on September 10, 1992. Executive Order 12,815, extending the President's Commission on Management of the Agency for International Development, AID programs on September 30th, 1992. Executive Order 12,816, management improvement in the federal government on October 14th, 1992. Executive Order 12,817, transfer of certain Iraqi government assets held by domestic banks on October 21st, 1992. Executive Order 12,818, open bidding on federal and federally funded construction projects on October 23, 1992. Executive Order 12,819, establishing a Presidential Youth Award for Community Service on October 28, 1992. Executive Order 12,820, facilitating federal employees' participation in community service activities on November 5, 1992. Executive Order 12,821, improving mathematics and science education in support of the national education goals on November 16, 1992. Executive Order 12,822, providing for payment of separate maintenance allowances to employees assigned to Johnston Island on November 16, 1992. Executive Order 12,823, amendments to Executive Order Number 12,757, implementation of the Enterprise for the Americas Initiative on December 3, 1992. Executive Order 12,824, establishing the Transportation Distinguished Service Medal on December 7, 1992. Executive Order 12,825, half-day closing of executive departments and agencies of the federal government on Thursday, December 24, 1992, on December 18, 1992. Executive Order 12,826, adjustments of certain rates of pay and allowances on December 30th, 1992. Executive Order 12,827, amendment to Executive Order No. 12,792 on December 30th, 1992. Executive Orders. Executive Order 12,828, delegation of certain personnel management authorities on January 5, 1993. Executive Order 12,829, National Industrial Security Program on January 6, 1993. Executive Order 12,830, establishing the Military Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal on January 9, 1993. Executive Order 12,831, additional measures with respect to the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Serbia, and Montenegro on January 15, 1993. Executive Order 12,832, amendments relating to the National Research Council on January 19, 1993. Executive Order 12,833, addition to Level 5 of the Executive Schedule, Transition Manager for the United States Enrichment Corporation on January 19, 1993.
It was a pivot.
Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Yeah, hi. Is Seymour there?
Oh, Seymour. I think he might be busy making our special pies. But hey, why not swing by the pizzeria? We've got a pie with your name on it. Anything else I can help you with?
I was looking for Seymour Butts.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking for Seymour Butts, he might be hiding behind a pepperoni slice. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it.
Hi, I'm Terrence, a marketing professional with a passion for helping your business grow smarter and faster. Here at DaBomb Digital Media, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we specialize in bringing your vision to life. Whether you're launching your first website or reimagining your entire digital presence, we've got you covered. From modern website design and search engine optimization to setting up your own AI-powered agency tools, we deliver innovative solutions that keep you ahead of the curve. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Let's build something remarkable together. For more information, visit our YouTube channel. Just search DaBomb Digital Media on YouTube and start exploring tips, success stories, and everything you need to elevate your brand.
1993.
It was a pivotal year, the final full year of President George H.W. Bush's term in office. The Cold War had just ended, but the world was still anything but settled. At home, the American people were experiencing the growing pains of a changing economy, rising racial tensions, and the weight of global leadership. President Bush governed with a clear sense of duty, a Navy man, a diplomat, a director of Central Intelligence, and a vice president before becoming commander-in-chief. He brought that wide-angle perspective to the presidency, particularly in 1992. Let's talk about what happened that year. The Los Angeles riots exploded in April after the acquittal of officers in the Rodney King beating. The unrest was a raw wound ripped open, exposing deep pain, injustice, and inequality in our society. Bush responded with Executive Order 12,804, which allowed for the restoration of law and order in L.A., a decision that involved deploying federal resources to stabilize the region. But he didn't stop there. He followed with EO 12,805, aiming to strengthen integrity and efficiency in federal programs, a signal that he understood more than force was needed. Reform and accountability had to follow. We also saw the advance of humanitarian values in Executive Order 12,807, which ordered the interdiction of illegal migrants at sea, a controversial but foundational piece of policy shaping how we still handle maritime migration crises today. President Bush's administration acted swiftly and globally. EO 12,808 and EO 12,810 imposed economic sanctions against the collapsing Yugoslav Federation, trying to contain violence and punish aggression. These orders laid the groundwork for what would become a long American and NATO engagement in the Balkans. But 1992 wasn't just about crisis response. It was about reform, innovation, and future building. EO 12,803 pushed forward the privatization of public infrastructure, one of the earliest moves toward modern public-private partnerships. Critics at the time raised concerns about local control and oversight, but today we still see echoes of that move in toll roads, energy grids, and broadband expansion initiatives. EO 12,821 targeted one of our most essential national priorities, improving math and science education. It supported our national education goals, a long-term investment still felt in STEM programs across the country. Bush also reminded us that leadership can be about civic encouragement. EO 12,819 and 12,820 promoted youth service and public engagement by federal workers. These were not just symbolic acts. They were efforts to rebuild civic pride and moral unity after a divisive era. In the heat of an election year, George H.W. Bush could have coasted, but he didn't. He continued to issue executive orders, over 40 of them in 1992, many of which sought to stabilize a turbulent world, modernize government operations, and hold fast to American ideals. Some policies were contentious, some were ahead of their time, but the intent was steady, to steer America into the post-Cold War world with dignity and control. Pause. Biden steps forward. Now, as we look back, we ask, what orders left a mark? What changed the way we live, govern, and engage with the world? In just a moment, we'll dive into the top 10 executive orders from President Bush in 1992, the ones that shaped history and still resonate today. Stay with us as E-Millions will go into details about Bush Sr. term.
You can tell a lot about a leader by what they write down, and even more by what they sign into law when nobody's watching. Between 1988 and 1992, America stood on the edge of historic transformation. And in the middle of it all was President George Herbert Walker Bush. He wasn't the flashiest man in the room, but he was there when the Berlin Wall came down, when the Soviet Union dissolved, and when America fought its first major post-Vietnam War in the sands of the Middle East. From diplomacy to disaster response, trade to domestic order, Bush Sr. issued 166 executive orders in just 4 years. Some of them were strong, some misguided, but all of them mattered. Today, we're going to break it down. The 5 best, the 5 worst, and the moments that defined a presidency caught between Cold War closure and the birth pains of a new world order. Top 5 Best Executive Orders Bush Sr. 1. EO 12808, facilitating the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Signed, May 5, 1992. This executive order lifted restrictions on dealings with several former Soviet republics, recognizing their independence and accelerating economic aid and diplomatic relations. Why it mattered? Bush navigated a collapsing superpower with caution and dignity. This EO helped open the door to peaceful transition instead of war. 2. EO 12722, blocking Iraqi government property, signed, August 2, 1990, the day Iraq invaded Kuwait. This EO froze Iraqi assets and cut off economic ties, launching the first major U.S. response to Saddam Hussein's aggression. Why it mattered? It marked a bold line in the sand. This order was the first legal strike in what would become Operation Desert Storm. 3. EO 12742, National Emergency Industrial Resources Mobilization. Signed, January 8, 1991. Under the Defense Production Act, this EO gave the federal government power to direct industries for defense production as war in the Gulf loomed. Why it mattered? It ensured America's military readiness during a war that needed precision, not chaos. 4th EO 12731, Principles of Ethical Conduct for Government Officers and Employees. Signed, October 17, 1990. Bush raised the standard for federal employees with this EO, enforcing clear ethical expectations. Why it mattered? In the aftermath of Iran-Contra, Bush's ethics order was a necessary step to rebuild public trust in government institutions. 5. EO 12656, Assignment of Emergency Preparedness Responsibilities. Signed November 18, 1988. A comprehensive order assigning emergency duties across federal agencies, from nuclear war to natural disasters. Why it mattered? It helped create the backbone of the modern emergency response framework still in use today. Top 5 Worst Executive Orders, Bush Sr. 1. EO 12711, Policy Implementation for Refugees from the Soviet Union, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, signed April 11, 1990. This order restricted the refugee process, making it harder for applicants from conflict zones to seek asylum. Why it's problematic? It limited escape routes for people fleeing tyranny and left many vulnerable lives in limbo. 2. EO 12759, Federal Energy Management, signed April 17, 1991. While it aimed to promote energy conservation, it lacked enforcement and funding. Why it failed? Good intentions with no teeth. Agencies largely ignored it, and no meaningful change occurred. Third Executive Order 12767, Establishing a Drug Advisory Council. Signed, June 27, 1991. This EO expanded federal coordination on the war on drugs, reinforcing punitive policies without addressing root causes. Why it's harmful? It doubled down on a flawed war, filling prisons but failing communities. 4th EO 12694, Federal Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments. Signed, January 15, 1990. Meant to study past abuses, but critics say it lacked transparency and real justice for victims. Why it fell short? Acknowledge the problem, but offer no real recompense. That's not leadership. 5. EO 12698, Regulations on Refugees from Haiti. Signed, February 7, 1990. This EO led to the mass detention of Haitian refugees at Guantanamo Bay without due process. Why it's condemned? It set a dangerous precedent for the U.S. treatment of asylum seekers and racial bias in immigration enforcement. Major events that defined 1988 to 1992. 1. The fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989. Bush's restraint and diplomacy kept the moment peaceful. No gloating, just quiet support as the Iron Curtain crumbled. 2. The collapse of the Soviet Union, 1991. Bush's administration oversaw the official end of the Cold War, moving from containment to cooperation. 3. Operation Desert Storm, 1991. The U.S. led a 35-nation coalition to push Iraq out of Kuwait, a swift, decisive military success, though the seeds of future conflict were sown. 4. Americans with Disabilities Act, 1990. While not an executive order, Bush signed it into law, fundamentally changing civil rights in the U.S. 5. L.A. riots, 1992. Sparked by the Rodney King verdict, this was a wake-up call for racial justice and police accountability in America. 6. Economic recession, 1990 to 1991. High unemployment and weak recovery cost Bush politically and shaped the public's hunger for change in 1992. George H.W. Bush was the bridge between old-world diplomacy and new-world complexity. He saw the Cold War end without firing a final shot, but he also launched a war that would echo across the Middle East for decades. His pen signed orders both humane and harmful. But one thing's for sure. Bush governed in the eye of the storm, and whether history remembers him as cautious or calculated, he never ran from duty. Now, let's take what we've learned and look ahead. Because when the pen moves, nations shift.
Some write history with blood, some with laws, but the sharpest stroke comes from the pen. Executive power ain't just a tool, it's a weapon wielded by the few, affecting the many. They sign it, we live it. They order it, we obey it. Here, watching, digging, remembering, from the plantation to the proclamation, from internment camps to civil rights stands, from surveillance laws to student loan draws. Order can change your life, and you might not even know it, but now you do. So stay locked in, stay woke, stay sharp. We ain't just talking about power, we tracking it. Executive Order Watch, and we ain't blinking.